An angel. What's your name?
Hello, hello, hello. Hello, everyone out there in TV land. Hello, welcome. Hey there, how's it going? All right, let's see here. By the way, that the tunes are still too loud. That's too quiet. I want to be able to hear them a little bit. Jeez. Come on now. I think that's fine. All right, so welcome everyone. I got some stuff to talk about, some stuff I want to bring up. The music or album I'm listening to at the moment is a small channel with no subs, but it's been called Mosh Mosh, and I get recommended just like random stuff, and I just get like, oh, here's the thing, because I follow a lot of small channels, so I get recommended small channel music and stuff like that. Hey Don, so this is what I'm playing at the moment. I always like to give credit where credit is due, especially if it's somebody that's relatively unknown. Oh, a decent Tuesday. Unheard of, Shadow. I like how like you still stick to the Twitch. Oh yeah, because here you have your cool little badges. Huh? You want cool little badges. Or do you have both running at the same time, Shadow? Anyway. So yeah, I got my emo here, hell yeah. For when I'm being stupid and I need to be bonked. Yep. Oh, I got you. You're on your phone. Are you out or something? I wish there was a way for like the. I gotta set it up to where but I'm incompetent, so forgive me. But I have to set it up to where I have both chats like kind of off to the side somewhere, so that YouTube people can see the Twitch chat and the Twitch people can see the YouTube chat. Sometimes I'll have like 5 or 6 people on Twitch and then like 12 people on YouTube, and it's like or more. And I'll respond to things, and they're probably like, "Where the fuck is that?" Like, I don't see that anywhere. Where does it say that stuff? Um, that's probably causing some minor confusion. Sure. Especially for anybody that watches it later as a VOD, then it's especially the case. I would say. I would say so. Yes. Hmm. Anyway, so how is everyone today? How are you, chat? How goes it? Can I ask? I legitimately am curious. Swapping on the mother or in the processor. Oh, interesting. How long is that going to take? You gonna be at it for a bit, I'm guessing. Jimmy Crack's on and I don't care. Jimmy Crack's on and I don't care. Jimmy Crack's on and I don't care. Okay. Oh, anyway. Okay, so the subject matter that I wanted to go over today is something that it's kind of a half joke when I say it, but in my head I just think of it as a neurodivergent shepherd's pie or something. It can be any kind of meat pie, but shepherd's pie is probably really. I mean, it's just it's got like all the potatoes, and who doesn't like that? But honestly, any kind of pie would do just fine. But the point being that uh, the point and idea being that there's certain neurodivergent labels that a lot of people in sort of the more neuronormative parts of society don't realize are far too condensed, far too catch-all of a term for a variety of things that need to be categorized separately for very, very significant reasons. Because it causes more harm than it is actually helpful to do this. And not just on the label itself, but on the humans that they attach said label to. And you're probably wondering, what does he mean? Angst, what do you mean? What do you mean by a pie? A condensed pie attached to certain labels. With multiple layers all under the same crust. What does that mean? Well, one very, very good example, and it's not the only one, but one very, very good example would be autism. Right. So, I've talked to a good amount of autistic people, obviously more of the schizoid autists, right? The ones that develop that kind of isolation and disconnect from their fellow man for the reasons I've talked about endlessly in the past. And often them, and often a lot of people that were diagnosed high functioning autistic, when they go to autistic spaces, even then, obviously, they still feel kind of different, right? But that could be for a multitude of reasons, such as these, the distrust they have, or the inability they have to establish social connections of a kind, of any kind, even of a kind that might be more suited to them, right? So that might extend beyond like something like double empathy, obviously, but that's not what I'm here to talk about. What I'm here to talk about is a lot of autistic spaces have a combination of people that have a multitude of other conditions and issues that are probably found once in like there is probably some kind of correlation, but it lacks the causation, right? So there's a lot of correlation between certain types of difficulties in speech and in learning and very so many different things. But they'll go to these spaces and they'll find a lot of people that have different kinds of issues or different kinds of problems and different kinds of difficulties that they might not have, and so on and so forth. And um, it becomes like a hodgepodge, right? Under the category autism. And I the reason this has been like kind of in my head recently is because I started watching, and some of you are going to recoil in terror, but I started watching that a TV show that's on Netflix called Love on the Spectrum. I started watching that. I think my wife had put it on. She's like, "What's? Oh, I'm just gonna put it on," and I'm like, "Oh no!" Like the moment that she started playing it, I was just thinking, like, "Oh man, like what kind of exploitative garbage is this gonna be?" Right? I assume that, right? Do you blame me? And and it wasn't as horrific as I thought it was gonna be, exploitation wise, but it's still wrought with a lot of that kind of pie I'm talking about. Right. So the show, for those that aren't familiar, basically it was actually started as an Australian show, right? And then they started doing an American version, and they put it on Netflix. The first season came out, I think 2023 or 2022, and then there's a new season 2024. And they basically, find these people that are autistic that are actively looking for a partner, and they set them up on dates with people that might be well suited or they might enjoy going out with, based on the parameters that the person that is on the show wants and is looking for in a partner. And it's all well and good, right? Because I mean, it's fine. Um, and luckily, they're not shooting it or editing it to be a haha look at them. It's more of a haha let's laugh with them, not at them. Though sometimes it can be a little dodgy, like there's some gray areas. And yeah, I'm not gonna be like, oh, greatest show ever made. No. Anyway, so the issue I have though is as you watch it, and I recommend you check it out just for this reason alone, even by the first episode, just for, you can see there's a significant degree of I hate the word functioning because it's so just icky. A significant degree of communication related, I guess, issues, sensory issues, disabilities of certain kinds, perhaps learning disabilities, certain other cognitive issues that wouldn't necessarily fall under just specifically autism. Right? So you'll see, like, these five people, and all five of them are just said in the show. They just say, "Oh, this person's autistic." That's all they say, right? And it's kind of a bit of misinformation there, right? It's not just going to be, oh, autism, right? Because these people are significantly different, not just in personality, but in capacity to engage with the world independently, right? Without any kind of help or assistance, um, to navigate said world, right? So you have some of them, like there's one girl, right? She lives with her parents, but she has an MA. She runs her own animation business, right? She is, skilled and well versed in subject matters ranging from, running her business to animation itself, and that's because that's her special interest in creating animation and animation as a thing, and so on and so forth, right? So you have a girl like that, and then you have, with certain types of communication differences and everything else, and then you have, somebody that has far more difficulty communicating, has far more difficulty following instructions, has far more difficulties keeping up with what is being presented to them, right, and what is occurring, and you can see this. There's a significant difference between these people. And it isn't just, oh, the personality. It isn't just, oh, one person's more intelligent than the other. No, there are some cognitive differences there. There are some things in addition to just autism that are occurring here, right? And I feel like those things need to be studied individually, understood individually, categorized individually. And it's unfortunate because they just kind of throw them all in as in, oh, look, it's the show where the autistic people go on dates. And as much as it's trying, from what I can tell, to be, as sincere as a reality show is, right? All reality shows are exploitative, so I can't say this one in particular. But it doesn't really focus on the dramatic elements and, like, the shitty stuff that most reality shows focus on. Because then, I guess they would perceive that as being more exploitative. But just because these people don't really have an interest in social drama or being easily offended by this and that, right? I watched 3 episodes of it so far, and there's only been one instance in which there was some kind of quote-unquote drama out of, like, 3 45-minute episodes, right? In fact, most of the dates or whatever have been incredibly wholesome. The communication is interesting because, obviously, bluntness, straightforwardness, immediate sincerity in question positing and answering, and I am not autistic. I am on what I consider to be the schizo-spectrum of things, but I have certain difficulties that I'm seeing them bother with. Not all of them, obviously, because I don't have sensory issues, except for maybe a lack of stimulation, which is a whole different kind of theory regarding all that. And it's interesting to watch because, like, somebody that watches it would go, oh, this date is going very poorly, right? And then at the end of the date, both of the parties are like, this date went incredibly well. I'm glad we had this date. And I'm like, that's awesome, because it just shows, like, oh, the assumptions that are being made, right? And because there's just a wall there, right? As to, like, how one interprets how good a date is going, right? But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But the focus that I want to, that's the ADHD. The focus is that aspect. That's what I'm interested in, is how they just go, oh, this is an autistic show about this, right? And they don't educate the audience on anything outside of, oh, these people are autistic, which is going to just kind of perpetuate further confusion, muddy the waters significantly, right? It's sort of like if they said, well, this is what they would do now because they don't differentiate it really, but it's sort of like if they said, oh, it's going to be schizo-spectrum dating show, right? And then they had, like, one person without positive symptoms, if they understood it that way, that was, like, more schizotypal, another person that was kind of more reserved, maybe socially awkward, but had these kind of schizo-spectrum style of thinking, that's more just kind of introverted and less bubbly, just more, maybe more stoic, more flat affect. And then you might have somebody with positive symptoms, right? Yes, indeed, Froggo. Gay. And so then neurotypical people watching a show like that would go, oh, well, they're all just schizos, right? It's like, Or they might think, wait, that one's not. See, that one doesn't have hallucinations. How is he schizo-spectrum? And on and so on and on and on, right? So it's kind of fucked to do that, and it causes more and more problems amongst these sort of things. But I'm focusing specifically on autism in this case because it's, like, the most it's the one that's actively recognized, but also it's even though it's actively recognized, it's being misused in this way, right? I know somebody that is high functioning autistic, very much so, in that they don't have any significant learning disabilities or anything like that, right? But that's so fuck to say somebody that's autistic that doesn't have learning disabilities is high functioning is the issue with the functioning part is already its own problem. But what I'm saying is that how can someone with a learning disability, it isn't fully caused by what they're terming autism, be considered less functional an autistic person? Why not? Why wouldn't you just say, oh, it's an autistic person with learning disabilities? That's the part that confuses me. If somebody has specific types of learning disabilities, you would say, oh, they're an autistic person with these learning disabilities. Or even if you don't like that term, these learning, whatever term would function better. But you get what I'm saying, right? And so he this friend of mine went to the school program type thing that was meant to be for autistic folk, right? And he gets there, and he's expecting more people like themselves, more quiet, more special interest focused, less interested in social things, more, interested in the mechanics of stuff, and has that kind of more concrete thinking about things and approach. And that's like what they're expecting to go. And they're thinking, oh, this is exciting. I'm gonna be able to talk to people on my level that make sense to me, and go to school and learn and be taught things based on that level. And they go and they find like a mixed bag of people, right? So they have, maybe they'll find one or two people that are kind of like what I was describing in themselves, but then they'll find like a few people there with like severe learning disabilities and communication disabilities. And I'm not just talking like, oh, they don't know social cues very well and any of that stuff. No, I'm talking like they just like they can't form words as easily at all and things like that. And so it's not just as like a flat affect. You can still understand a person that has a flat affect, but I'm talking people that basically can't have cognitive issues structuring and saying words, having linguistic skills. And so they're just like, what, like, I mean, they still continued with it, but they're like, what is this? Like, this isn't like. And so the programs have to be suited for all audiences, including those for with the learning disabilities. And so then the ones that don't have it are like confused as to progress, right? Because they're like, okay, like, why would you, this is kind of my point. Why would you, if you had when you have a public school of any kind, it's going to be made up of mostly neurotypical people, and when I say neurotypical, I mean like non-autistic, non-schizo people, and then not like, because everything can be considered neurodivergence, almost any kind of what's the word, plasticity done to the brain due to trauma that's significant. You know what I'm saying. So but I'm talking more along those lines. And imagine that they just go, they didn't have any actual like features or functions or classes for people or support for people that have learning disabilities, and they just throw them in the regular class and go, well, you're all neurotypical, let's just put you all in the same class, right? And that's kind of what I'm saying. Like, when an autistic person goes to like an autistic program or an autistic school or an autistic class, they're going to be thrown in with people with varying types of other disabilities that are just going to be categorized as, oh, well, it's just all autism, right? When it's definitely not. So I think that's kind of my point. It's those neurodivergent pies that people get thrown into. Like, imagine being someone also like that's schizo-spectrum thinking, and abstract thought, intuition, and loose associative thinking, but doesn't have positive symptoms, and then you sign up for like a schizo spectrum type program that's created, and then they're like, well, I'm sorry, you can't attend, you don't have positive symptoms. It's like, what? Psychosis is not saying, it's not this, it's... Anyway, so that's kind of what I'm saying, right? Or if you put somebody that has, you know, learning disabilities and schizophrenia in the schizophrenia school, like, okay, they need special support. This isn't like, you can't just throw in categories like that and then just go, oh well, this is the school for the fucking the mutos, the mutants. The mutants go here. This is where the mutants go. And it's really troubling. Anyway. Well, that's what I'm saying. Because, Shadow, they differentiated by calling it low to high functioning. Which doesn't make any sense. Because a lot of the learning disabilities that autistic people sometimes possess, a person that's not autistic could also possess. And it would be called something else. It would just be called a learning disability of a specific kind. And it wouldn't just be conjoined with their autism. It's wild to me. Isn't the whole point of DSM stuff for the purpose of insurance companies, so the emphasis is objective difficulty and disability to society? Yeah, I mean, sadly, in many ways. Oh, sorry, I haven't been reading what you posted. So I got caught up. Oh, okay, you're just like looking at different shit. Okay. Let me see. Let me switch over here. Maybe I got somebody here with me. Oh, look, I got Herschel, I got Leviticus. Okay, let's see here. Boom. It's showing up? Cool, it is. Alright, perfect. Let me go ahead and deafen here. Hello, Leviticus. Hi, Herschel. How's it going?
Howdy. How you doing?
Hi.
Yeah, doing same shit, different toilet, as you well know. So...
Happy to hear.
Did you say happy to hear? That's funny. But that caught me off guard. So I was gonna ask you guys, what do you think about what I've been spouting here? Because I was server deafened, but you guys should have been able to hear my little introductory spiel ramble. Any thoughts on this matter that you want to start with?
I was listening for most of it, and then I got pinged in some Facebook thing and got distracted.
You are the worst, Herschel, but that's okay. That's part of what makes you charming. Leviticus, what's your excuse?
I had a similar situation.
Oh,
but I'm
Lord Almighty. See, the only problem with this is that I have to repeat everything I said to get you guys caught up. And then I'm tired. I get tired of listening to my own voice, and I want to hear other people's voices. Basically, very simply put, the issue that I'm bringing up today that I wanted to discuss is the issue of neurodivergence, like autism, basically being used as like a catch-all term for a variety of things that shouldn't be just conflated into one, right? On a public level, like they might go into specifics in like the academic world.
Agree.
In the academic world or the medical world, they might go into specifics there. but more socially and publicly, companies, nonprofits, and everything else, they sort of, in schools, education systems, they just treat it all like it's one thing. So you can walk into a classroom of autistic children or teenagers, and that you're gonna have like it's gonna be a bag of jelly beans, right? It's just gonna be everything from people with like very severe communication skills to people that have very few communication skills but still have social difficulties or other types of things, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
I 100% agree with it. There's like a really big thing that's been happening, or like conversation that's been happening in like autistic spaces about like the way that people with like level 1 ASD like speak over a lot of people with like level 2 and level 3 ASD, and like how a lot of the times like the needs of like one person are far greater than the other, and they're the environment that one needs is totally different, and how like there needs to be like not only a conversation between like level 1, level 2, level 3, but also like there needs to be like some like compromise found between level 1 people and level 2 people listening to like level 2 and level 3, and in that case like lower levels of higher levels of support needs.
And that's what's interesting is that the support needs and these levels you're describing, they don't all have to do with like the individuals on the levels that require more support. It isn't all just because they're autistic.
Yeah,
It's
there's
because there's
overlapping.
other conditions,
Yeah,
correct?
there's usually learning disabilities or
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that that are comorbid, because even some level 1 autistic people can have like learning disabilities of some sort and stuff like that, but they don't need those support needs because it's like a certain type of learning
Yeah,
disability
it'll
or
be
whatever.
something like dyslexia or what's the other one? The number one. I always forget it. Um,
Dyspraxia thing.
this
Dyscalculia or whatever.
dyscalculia. Yeah, there you go. Um, but yeah, that's a learning disability. It makes shit hard. Like when it comes to reading, and you need special books, and you need special like types of things to make it a lot easier to differentiate between the symbols and stuff like that, right? Okay, but then you have somebody that has a learning disability that's far more severe, right? And or even other kinds of cognitive disabilities and difficulties
Mm.
that have nothing to do, at least shouldn't have anything to do with what I think we should be discussing when it comes to autism. It's just kind of wild to me, right? That they kind of just pie it all together. But what are some of the discussions or concerns that you said you've seen it on other spaces? What kind of stuff do they talk about?
One of the things that's like a really big like issue right now, I guess, is like the use of the term nonverbal,
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of people with autism say that nonverbal specifically refers to like the constant state. So if you can speak or more than like a few words type deal, or more than a very very limited amount, or in very very specific situations, like they have there's nonverbal, there's minimally verbal, and there's semi-verbal. And the thing is that a lot of people say that if it's not a constant thing, then you're just losing the capability of speech. It's not quite the same thing. So that's like a discussion that's been going on.
That it's interesting because like there's a lot of reasons a person can be nonverbal, right? And there's a lot of comorbidities or other issues that could make one autistic person nonverbal and another autistic person nonverbal. Um, and to just kind of go, oh, it's nonverbal autism, is kind of absurd to me. There needs to
Yeah,
be more differentiation, more delineation there.
yeah. It was saying that like if you're nonverbal, you're nonverbal. You're not like temporarily nonverbal. That was like the discussion was about misuse, I suppose,
Hmm.
of the term.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense.
as like a
There's like even
temporary.
people that are neurotypical that can become nonverbal due to trauma and like significant levels of trauma that they, become nonverbal for a period of years. Or just refuse, or maybe it's just a terrified refusal to communicate, and they become essentially like virtually nonverbal, right? It's just, I don't know. So is there a differentiation in those spaces that talk about like when it's a, because I can imagine this is another thing. I can imagine that there's probably neurodivergent people out there that have, because they have significant trouble, both socially and communication wise, because of specific issues. They might make the choice to just actively not speak anymore because it causes too much confusion or problems.
I believe that's called selective mutism. I'm not sure if the choice aspect
Hmm.
um, it
Well, I
would
mean,
make it not
it's less a choice and
because
more of like avoiding probably what were traumatic childhood experiences because of it. But yeah.
I'm I'm sure it would likely be diagnosed the same, just
Hmm.
like from an outside perspective, but I feel like on a more technical level, if it's like a choice to just stop speaking, it would not quite be nonverbal because that one is like lack of ability to speak, more so than like not speaking. So I suppose it would be more mute,
Mutism. It,
something along those lines.
yeah, it's just interesting if someone is mute because of trauma and terror associated with the problems that come with speaking, especially if they have difficulties of varying kinds. Is that so?
I
Like how? Like then you get to a weird space of like how much is that a choice and how much is that is like a developed set of adaptations um, that were kind of forced upon them due to trauma. But
hmm.
And even in situations where like there could be a different like set of circumstances where the person is like, even if they have the ability to speak, it's just like they can't get the words to externalize due to like some sort of like trauma or fear based on different causes, whether um like I'm sure there's even situations where people might have like a stutter or something like that,
mhm.
uh, led them to hide it, or they've had bad situations with certain people, so they're only comfortable talking to specific people, or it could even be like a situation where they can only, or like they only feel comfortable talking about specific, like in specific types of conversations.
Hmm.
Sense.
Yeah, yeah, and then they would be nonverbal in one most situations except for certain specific ones. Like I just imagine a situation in which like, and I know I'm not making stuff up here. Anything anybody can make up when it comes to this stuff probably has happened at some time or another. But I can imagine a situation in which an autistic person growing up had a stutter and had something like, I don't know, abusive parents that would smack them or hit them every time they stuttered, or something of that nature. And then and then they would just develop this adaptation to not speak. It's
Yeah, at that point, is that response like even like attached to the autism at all? Really?
yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, does it have anything to do with their autism, or does it have more to do with the environment's response to something like stuttering or other types of communication issues that might have not been that severe? They might have been so severe they would have become nonverbal, but the trauma of how it was basically treated in the environment led to a different kind of severity, um, a different kind of issue. So it's so funny, especially when it's being categorized as something like a choice. A lot of personality disorders are oftentimes approached that way, as if they were choices that were made. I doubt.
One thing I sort of relate to in my experience in regards to like speaking is there are some times where I will want to say something, but I have no idea how it will be received. And I'm like, it would be much easier to not externalize that. If that makes sense?
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I would say there's a lot of schizoids out there that have, like, quote-unquote selective mutism, right? I mean, how often have a lot of schizoids sort of found themselves in situations in which...
I have to say, honestly, the whole discussion, if I take a step back, the whole discussion itself does come across very autistic in general, because of the need to be so precise with language.
No,
and
yeah.
correct about the exact terms used.
No, see, but I don't think it's just I think the term.
I don't mean that to say that it's. I don't mean that to say that it's not a needed conversation, but I do think that does drive it somewhat.
I'd agree to a certain point. The only part I would disagree with that is that they already do this for neurotypical people that aren't autistic. They already do this, right? So if somebody is not autistic but has some kind of disorder or condition that causes them to not be able to communicate verbally, they're just going to say, oh, that's a person with this syndrome, condition, whatever. That's all they're going to say. They're not going to say, oh, this is a person with neurotypical syndrome disorder. You know, like they're not going to add. There's no like catch-all term for this person that they're going to kind of conflate it to. That's kind of what I'm saying. There has to be I think it's more about trying to define what and really pinpoint to a better degree what is autism, what is not specifically autism, what are things that correlate often with autism but are not specifically autistic, right? Trying to get a grasp on that, I think, is the most important thing. And I think nervous system adaptations are a choice from a limited menu. Yeah, very limited menu. Very limited. And sometimes it's your brain making those decisions. It's not like you're not consciously making them. But as I was saying, and I worry, the reason I'm concerned about this is because I think it's something that will eventually affect other groups, like even the groups I'm trying to like push for, which is, you know, this idea of a schizo-spectrum. It's gonna be the same problems, right? And so I don't see why this discussion can't be had when in regards to something like autism now. And what's interesting is that some of the autistic researchers and that they've spoken to online and stuff, they through chat and stuff, it's hard to get people on camera, have or recorded or whatever. They've said they've had the similar frustrations and issues with colleagues within their own universities of this sort of problem of non-specificity, right? And somebody might argue like, oh, well, that's just your autism making you focus so much on specificity, but at what point is it autism and at what point is it just intellectual laziness on the part of... To be clear,
I do agree with the position. I just don't like talking about discussions in a opinionated way when describing them to people. I try to explain things in a more neutral way when discussing internet debates.
Oh, okay.
It's just something I always do.
No, I know that's fine. I'm not saying you said or didn't say anything. I'm just I'm just interested in that what was said could be used as a certain point of argumentation.
Yeah, I was just commenting on my own behaviors and how I could kind of see how my behaviors immediately made me agree with it. You know,
Oh, you know,
why I
with
didn't
the being
immediately, like, think
specific,
about it.
being no, I know,
Yeah.
but that's the thing. Like, I'm not autistic, so why is it that I'm so concerned with this? I mean, is it for schizo reasons? Maybe. It might be actually. But if I'm not gonna ramble down that road, but still, I think I don't think every single little iteration of everything must be compartmentalized. Like, that's the last thing I personally want. Some people would love that, but there needs to be a little bit more scrutiny, is what I'm saying. Some level of scrutiny needs to occur, because even amongst, like I said, people that are autistic and they have colleagues within similar fields of either psychiatry or neuroscience or things or psychology, they still deal with this sort of frustration of dealing with the institutions, which are kind of more obviously cognitively neurotypically focused or minded in their approach to the subject of neurodivergence, to the point that that they make these same kind of mistakes, and they also make these same pies of people, because there's just too much. Maybe there's just, if it feels like it's too much to parse out, or maybe there's not enough of motivation to want to parse all that stuff out, because there's just not enough benefits, or I don't know, career benefits maybe, or something, social career benefits to investigating thoroughly specific subjects. I don't know. I don't know. But it's because like in my mind, that's not what I gravitate toward intellectually, right? I don't gravitate toward things that I think would be like cost benefit analysis beneficial for me to learn and take part in and exercise like efforts toward. Like that's not where I'm at, you know. So it's hard for me to like
If we
imagine.
learned about all of these things, like it would make so many people's quality of life go up, but wouldn't it all be profitable? What a wonderful world we live in.
Well, I mean, you could argue that, but it would still be profitable. It could be profitable if you wanted to make that argument, in that if you can implement if you can implement neurodivergent people in a quote unquote, what is it, a productive capacity that is comfortable for them and also shows a great deal of humanity while also implementing it, then you can make the argument that it could. Like, I mean, I'll give you a hot take. I mean, maybe it's a hot take, I don't know, but honestly, like, when it comes to certain subject matters, and when it comes to certain types of practices or skill sets, or there's a better word I'm looking for, expertise, there you go. When it comes to certain expertise, it requires specific types of cognitive skill sets, right? And I honestly think it's a lot easier for people that have a certain cognitive skill set that is intuitive toward that particular expertise, right? In other words, they don't have to like study as hard or think about it as much, or rearrange the way they approach things. It just comes more naturally to them because of where they are on this sort of spectrum stuff. And like, you can get like 5 of those people and it's gonna be in that same field, specifically that field, not everything else, or those types of fields. They're gonna beat like 30 people that aren't like that in those fields. as far as production levels go, and the ability to complete things, tasks, research, spend time, because they're going to be primarily focused on it because they won't have as many social interests. And their social interests will revolve primarily around those special interests, and the special interests will be primarily involved around the career path itself. So it wouldn't even be work; it would be play, right? It would stop being. It would be people enjoying what they do, and being motivated by the expertise itself. I can't imagine how 5 people of that nature. I can't imagine how 20 people that don't have that drive and intuitiveness are going to compete against 5 of these. I just can't.
I just more so meant that I don't think a lot of like research and stuff like that is going to be put in the direction of improving the quality of life of autistic people, because as is, only like 15% of people with autism even have jobs at all, or something
Well,
like
yeah,
that.
it's a neuronormative environment with institutions that have neuronormative qualifications and what's I'm looking for, you know what I'm saying, like goals to be reached that require a lot of social interest and social motivation, because or ability to navigate a bunch of the kind of more neurotypical emotional preoccupations and stuff like that, and so without an ability to network within their own field very well, because of these parameters, they they'll often come across so many barriers that it becomes not it's highly improbable for any kind of significant success, regardless of how well versed or knowledgeable they may be in the field itself. That's what's fucked. And if like the field itself is being motivated by profits, then you're going to have a bunch of neurodivergent people that are not motivated by profits, are motivated by the learning itself of the thing that they're interested in. And not everything about the thing that they're interested in is going to be profitable. A lot of it's going to be science or knowledge for the sake of knowledge, and some of it could be knowledge that could be implemented, but it isn't, because it's not what a neuronormative society wants or would gravitate toward, even if it would benefit them, right? They just don't maybe they're not thinking far ahead enough, or it gets in the way of specific social dynamics or personal motivations that ultimately sometimes handicap the very society that they're attempting to make fruitful. The business model doesn't profit from solutions, but makes bank on servicing, perpetuating problems via capitalism. So there's a lot of problems with a lot of those things, absolutely. And I think it's a lot of why these sort of errors occur in decision making. It's all the lack of metacognition, as I always say. It's just all lack of metacognition, thinking metacognitively outside one's zone. And when you have an entire society driven by a lack of metacognition of a specific kind, well, good luck, right? Good luck improving the quality of life of individuals that would ultimately help progress mankind, as they have in the past many times, but usually by sheer happenstance instead of directed effort. It's fucking absurd. It just kills me. That stuff just bugs the shit out of me. It drives me nuts. I think you guys know what I'm talking about, when like a solution is just so apparent, like it's just there, and all that's in the way is just what people like to term human nature. It's like, yeah, well, maybe how much of it is really human nature, or how much of it is the belief that it is the excuse of human nature? That's something I like to think about sometimes, this excuse of human nature.
important to always remember that some people just like to hurt other people. It's a real bad thing. A lot of people really dislike other people for no reason.
No,
It really
I mean,
sucks.
well, and there's always a reason.
They're
but, you know.
prejudiced or whatever.
Oh, you're talking about like people that just don't like different people that are different, like in any major capacity.
There's a lot of them. That's always something to remember. That, and then a lot of those people are also in in positions of power. You know.
Well, I mean, honestly, people that are in positions of power probably are less hateful and more cynical. So
Hopefully.
no, I mean, it doesn't. They're cynical, but the cynicism is going to be driven toward whatever is most profitable in the current environment that is neuronormative. So yeah, it's going to be really difficult to push any significant kind of change in those fields because I mean it's not going to get them votes, it's not going to get them profits, it's not going to get them elected in this or that position, or it's not going to give them more power, more what have you. I don't think it's primarily, at least when you're talking about like people in significant positions of power, I don't think it's primarily hate that drives them. It's definitely cynicism. It's only one half of human nature. The other half expresses through the choices that weren't made. That's really nice, Don. That's very nice, actually. Yeah.
One thing.
Yeah.
But it's.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Sorry.
No,
One thing I've on a small level. I don't want to disclose too much information. But it's sort of an example of that kind of thing is I have a coworker who has been diagnosed with autism, and he is very good at I will share this. It is coding based, and he's really good at what he does. And one thing that's really cool is he comes up with these really cool solutions to problems that make, long story short, they just make things much more efficient and stuff like that. But it hasn't been like recognized by our boss and like stuff like that. Like he has he's been getting in a lot of trouble for things that he can't really like help, even though like his performance is really great. Like
I'm guessing far exceeds the performance of many of the colleagues that are probably liked or not as in trouble.
Yeah, I think one thing that does happen is I think one reason he has gotten a lot of trouble is like misunderstanding some like project requirements and stuff like that, but they don't make it very clear at all. Like they're extremely vague and they expect us to like understand things perfectly, and like I can't imagine what it's like from that point of view, like having that sort of struggle, and they just like take out their frustration on him, and it really bothers me.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. You start wondering, it's like, oh, is it the fault of the friend, or is it the fault of the people that can't be more specific about any of the decisions they're making that are in management because they don't want to take any risk? They want to put the risk on the person below them.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's fucking sick. Let's see here. But yeah, that kind of, it's just so many things that infuriate me about the subject. But I think we kind of went off into the weeds again. But I think to overcome a lot of these problems would require a stronger sense of what is it we're saying when we say someone is autistic, and what is it we're saying when we say that somebody that's autistic that works at your business requires accommodations, right? Some of these, like, it's kind of funny because some of the accommodations an autistic person would need would be literally like leave them the fuck alone and be specific about what it is you want from them, because if you do, they're likely to do an incredibly good job. And so it's so funny because it almost
Yeah,
requires doing less, right? Like not even doing
they,
more.
I have been told many times, like in person to my face, people have like basically told me I seem autistic. So people at work have kind of just like let me use my headphones. Like even my manager's boss's like boss or whatever, they've seen me wear headphones and they just let me do it, even though it's definitely not okay for me to do it.
Oh,
Like
because it's not
technically
company
speaking, it's a health
policy,
code.
right?
It's technically a health code violation.
Oh my. All right.
Because
I
they
do not
work in food
condone health
service.
code violations. This is all in Minecraft.
It's a big, very secure set of wireless headphones.
Oh, okay.
I'm just listening to music with them, basically,
Well, let me guess. It helps you
and they're
work.
just
It
cool
lets
with
you be
that.
efficient. It lets you be
Yeah,
productive. It lets you maybe you just put on a fucking hairnet over the goddamn headphones. I don't know, something that covers your ears too.
they're on top of my baseball cap. So
It's funny. It's so funny. But point is, it's like, oh, okay, cool. Can we accommodate that so that we can have somebody that, maybe because of certain things that would give them issues in certain fields, is actually allowing them to excel in this one, and so then allowing those accommodations will allow them to excel for the company or whatever it is they're fucking working in. Like it's just this kind of weird dogmatic implementation of company policy due to fear of liability. They can also have you fucking sign off shit like, oh, okay, well, we'll go ahead and make these concessions or whatever because you're saying, or you've proven you can obviously do the work incredibly well, but here we want you to sign this. We're not liable if something goes wrong because of these concessions. It's like, okay, cool, there you go. Or those accommodations. Like if, like, for example, you need to wear headphones at work, right? If you get into an accident because you're wearing headphones at work, they shouldn't be held liable. Because if it's specifically because you were wearing headphones, and then they would have to make a compromise like that, right? Because that would be absurd, right? If the person's like, oh yeah, you can wear headphones because you have an issue, but you work really well, and then something headphone related causes them to get hurt, that'd be absurd to have the company be at fault for allowing you the accommodation that you requested.
yeah, we have a workers' comp thing at my job that basically works like that because we work with like we work with knives, hot ass oil, etc.
Yeah.
So workers' comp is sometimes needed.
Yeah, I mean,
So they also do mandatory drug tests and stuff like that if you
yeah.
file for it.
Oh my god. I know in certain states, are there any states in which mandatory drug tests stop testing for medical marijuana?
I think my state. I'm not too sure about that, but I don't know.
Stupid.
Weed is completely illegal in my state, but it's decriminalized. There's no sale of it in the state at all, but you're not going to get in trouble unless you're using it while driving or like in public.
But if you have it in your system, you'll lose your job. Like if you had smoked the day before, on the weekend, or
Well,
eat a gummy.
this is a right to work state as well. So yes,
That shit's so crazy to me. Like what's so crazy to me about that stuff is that, like, you can literally be an alcoholic and you won't get fired unless you come into work drunk. They're not testing to see if there's alcohol in your bloodstream from last night.
yeah. One of my coworkers made a really off-color joke about how she doesn't smoke weed because she used to be a school counselor, and they won't fire you for being an alcoholic, but they will fire you for smoking weed if you work at schools. So that was a really awesome, funny joke.
Yeah, no, it's agreed. It's absurd, right? I can be the school counselor and they could give me drug tests every week, and if they see a trace of anything, ooh, you're big trouble. But I could be fucking shit-faced every weekend and shit-faced every other night and blacking out and browning out and shit, fucking up my liver, and obviously it's going to have an impact over time on my cognitive stuff and everything else. But no, that's fine. That's okie dokes. Don't you
Such
dare
an
get high once in a while. Fucking crazy.
invasion of privacy. Like, it is none of their
Crazy.
business what you do in your free time while you're not at work.
Yeah, imagine if they like fire you, if they give you like a sexuality test, right? And they're like, oh well, according to this, you were being too gay this weekend. We can't have you work here. Like, I mean, it's not like you're there, butt fucking somebody while you're at work. That's one problem. But what you do on the goddamn weekend, and it's not impacting your fucking ability to do the job, who gives a goddamn shit? It's so crazy, man. I don't know how we got
My
here, by the way.
My job has a rule as well about not posting things about my job on social media, or else it can result in termination, whether it's positive or negative. If it's not approved by like somebody higher up or whatever, you can't put their name on it.
I mean, the reason I could see why. I mean, I can make the argument for why that could be a problem. Like, for example, if you I don't know, decided to, well, like, okay, let's just think of a situation. Okay, say an employee at a chain of restaurants decides, I'm gonna
Hey,
take, I'm
I
gonna,
could,
huh?
dude, I could just explain it. It's Waffle House. That's why. It's because it's Waffle House.
No, it's a lot of places are like
If
that. A lot of
well,
places.
this place is the strictest I've ever seen any food place,
Oh, okay.
and I've worked at a lot of food
But
places.
honestly, I've worked different jobs in my life, and most of them have that kind of stuff in it. Like, you can't like I couldn't take, like, if I say I was drinking a beer and I was standing in front of my job and I have like a 40 and or something like that, and you can see where I work and I'm wearing the uniform. Their issue, I think, especially now. In the past, maybe it's a little sillier, but now, if it's a controversial or crazy image and it goes viral, right? It could potentially have an impact on the business depending on how they handle the image. But usually they don't handle that shit well. Like, for example, if somebody did something really stupid that got like viral and it was like a McDonald's employee, depending on what they did, all they have to do is say, just say like, okay, well, we don't condone that if people are viraling it and saying this is awful. But if people are saying it's hilarious but it's inappropriate, they just gotta lean into it. And if anything, it'll probably turn it to like a free advertising campaign on the part of the fucking person, and this should just goddamn reward them if it ends up being net positives, profit wise for the company, that they took their stupid picture of themselves, I don't know, making some horrific concoction or smoking. I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know what kind of. I don't know.
It's very common for employees who have any issue, even vaguely similar to things going viral, to get like fired. Even like employees who have just posted stuff and there have been no issues. Like, they just posted stuff in uniform. If they got like big at all, they would just get fired. It's like a thing. I don't know. It makes me a little uneasy even like talking about it.
Well, then let's
So.
not. We don't want you losing your job over this.
Please.
Yeah, so crazy. I'm gonna dox you and then tell your employers you were on my stream talking about headphone wearing. Kidding. All right, so fucking absurd. All right, guys. Well, I don't know where to take this. Does anybody else here have any thoughts on this matter or all the matters that we've covered on this tiresome Tuesday? Anybody in chat have any thoughts they'd like to share? Let me check. Sometimes I lose track of chat. So much stuff going on. Let me see here. Oh yeah, Trudy says, I'm medically not allowed to drive, but who knows, them rules, they blur. I would rather... you would rather a pothead counseling. Oh man. I want to be barefoot at work. Oh, that's funny. Right? It's like, I'll prove I have very good foot hygiene. Have your work doctor look at my feet and see how good the hygiene of my feet are. Now let me work barefoot, please.
Top 10 ways to get athlete's foot.
Work barefoot? Yeah, probably. Yeah, you're gonna get that shit quick. It's probably not the best idea, Trudy, I'll be honest. Not because it's inappropriate, but because it's probably not good for your fucking feet. People are gross. They're wearing shoes, tracking all kinds of shit. It's gonna get caught between your toes. Oh man. Imagine walking around 8 hours of just filthy floor. Barefoot? Fuck that noise. No, thank you. No, thank you. That's so amusing just thinking about it though. Don has said a few things to us to see here. Oh man, you got a lot in here. Let's see, that's the nature of purpose. Oh, okay, the last thing he said, culturally appropriate addictions usually support a big something. Weed will have its day too as the states become sole legal dealers. Yeah, not for sure. Incoming for sure. It's gonna be illegal to like. They're gonna make it like illegal to privately sell medical marijuana one day. It's just gonna be there's only gonna be public or state operated dispensaries. I can see that happening for sure. You can monopolize that shit. Or there's going to be a private corporation that monopolizes it that is sanctioned by the state. So then both the private sector and the state sector will get their pay, and everyone else will just kind of lose an opportunity. I don't know. It's definitely got a chance to become that way because alcohol has too long a history to be able to do that. Weed, though, in the United States and anywhere else, does not possess that same social history. There's still kind of a judgment socially about, you know, smoking weed or whatever, or just smoking marijuana or imbibing it in other ways. Like, there's still a stigma there that many countries possess. It can be used, let's just say, by the state to make an argument as to how or why it should be state controlled or private controlled by sanctioned state apparatus or whatever. Oh man,
I don't think weed is going to be legalized in my state for a while. It's still pretty strict. Like, people will get fined all the time for it.
And that's probably, I'm guessing, because in your state, trying to legalize it would probably hurt their voter ability.
I think,
or you know,
I think my state is like slightly more Republican than Democrat, like registration.
There wouldn't be like, it wouldn't be that. It would be too risky and not beneficial to be a proponent of trying to legalize it in your state. They probably wouldn't get the vote or the majority vote. So, and once the revenue, Don, once revenues, you know, once the state realizes, oh man, this is just money we need, they're going to start trying to basically convince their own constituency on both parties as to why it would be beneficial and how, you know, it's scientifically beneficial to a variety of people in other states. And then once they can see a social shift in demographic with, you know, Zoomers and everything voting more, if they in fact do that more, I doubt it.
It's definitely going to be legal here within my lifetime because most people here use it. You know?
Probably people your age and younger. I doubt the 40, 50-year-olds are using it.
No, they definitely are. At least the 40-year-olds and such. That's why I think like definitely within my lifetime it's gonna be legalized
Yeah,
here. But I don't think it's gonna
because
happen anytime in the near
your
future.
generation will be the 40, 50-year-olds.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. And then you're gonna have you guys are gonna legalize it, and then you're gonna have Zoomers when you're in your 40s and 50s. You're gonna have Zoomers, uh, you know, what's the word? Actively.
Zoomer equivalent.
No, they're gonna be actively protesting the legalization of marijuana at that point in your state.
Yeah, because they were raised by their like ancient ass parents who were
Well, not
anti-legal.
ancient ass. It would be because their parents were pro. Like you would be the parent, and you were super pro legalization, and
Oh, I
so
guess, yeah.
and they'd be like, "Well,
Usually
fuck dad, no marijuana, legalize." I don't know. I'll try to legalize some other shit, maybe. That's like safer. They're gonna find like some other like equivalent that has like less issues or something involved, and they're gonna like fight against whatever your version is. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm tired. Marijuana legislation can be compared to Volstein Acts of 20 Seagram's profited big time to the U.S. distributors, aka the Kennedys. Seagrams. I like Seagram's vodka. No, it's like this stuff shit, but I'll drink it. When you're broke, you're broke. All right, guys. I think I'm gonna cut it here. So, by the way, really quick, I have some unfortunate news. So, the Schizoid, the program that I was running with Joanna, unfortunately, this is unprecedented, honestly, because we never had trouble filling the seats. But fortunately, we couldn't get enough seats this time around, and we had to cancel it. It just wasn't going to be enough to make it, even the group work. And also, I don't think, me and her aren't going to be doing that program for a while. They need some time away from that kind of work. It's they're really burnt out on so much stuff. They have so much going on in their life, and so it's kind of been kind of like a thing where it's like, okay, they're stepping away from it for now. You never know in the future. And unfortunately, it's not something I could run by myself. I am not. I don't have many of the skills and talents they do to be able to do what we were doing just by myself. It's absurd. So, but who knows? There might be something on the horizon that would be significantly less costly because it would just be my ass, and it would be something type very differently run, very different kind of thing that I might be interested in the future in doing myself. So it would be something good, I think, and it would be less pricey as well. All right, but we'll see on that. But if you want to support the stream, if you want to support the YouTube channel, the Twitch, all the networking behind the scenes shit, I have time when I have time to do it, and I do it. And just or if you just, I don't know, you just like whatever, you like what I do, please support me on Patreon. If you already support me on Patreon and you recently got a huge promotion and you want to upgrade one of those, I'd appreciate that too. Never support me if you can't afford to. Last thing I need to do is take food out of somebody's mouth that doesn't have much. And but yeah, PayPal, Patreon's really, really useful. Thanks, guys. Links are in the About Me, I think. Yeah, there should be in the About Me for my YouTube channel, and on Twitch it should be in the About Me for the channel there, or the information there. And always join the Zoid Void server. There's a server for schizoids. People that have strongly relate to and connect to the Schizoid PD stuff. You can do an application on there, join it, go through it. Later, Don. And if you're diagnosed, welcome aboard. Just go through the application process on the server. There are also portions of the server that are open to anybody. It's the annex channels. There you can talk to other people. Often the people in the annex channels are either schizoids are hanging out in there too, or it's people like on those other types of schizo-spectrum stuff. Well, that's schizoids is a different thing. It's because there's lots of. Never mind. I'm not gonna get into it. But point is, there's a lot of people that are I guess would be considered schizospectrum, like schizotypals, and people with sometimes positive symptoms that they deal with. They hang out there too because they relate to some of the issues or the discussions that I have. So they're kind of like there too, doing their thing. All right. Well, as usual, when day is dark,